Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of July 9th, 2023, Richie Furay.
Welcome back, and we are staring down Fish Tour and watching Dead and Company ride off into the sunset. Maybe. We got top stories. We got an interview with Buffalo Springfield and Poco alumni Richie Furay. And I'm going to talk a little bit about talking at concerts. How are you doing, Amanda?
Kevin, I am doing very well. I think, just about recovered from my own hailstorm experience at Red Rocks this past week on the 4th. So happy about that I made it through.
That's crazy. Now, you saw it was Blues Traveler?
Yeah, so it's North Mississippi All Stars, Railroad Earth, and Blues Traveler on the bill on the 4th.
Nice. So what were your highlights?
I haven't seen North Mississippi All Stars in years, and so I was really excited. They sounded great, lots of energy. Railroad Earth and Blues Traveler, both their sets got cut short because there were two storm delays, and then the actual show was just shut down early. I will say I didn't remember how loud a harmonica could be, but the mix for Blues Traveler was turned way up. But everybody sounded great, and it was a good time. It was packed.
Very nice. I went in 94. I was at the 4th of July show, and it was Widespread that opened for them that year. That's how old I am. They Dead and Company were at Folsom Field one of those nights, Lightning, and the first set got cut short. And very interesting if you go back and listen to that. The second set, they picked up right where they left off in the middle of a playing jam, like mid-space. Mm-hmm. They just, boom, picked it right back up, started the second set with it. Pretty fantastic. Got to see Tab on Thursday night, and half Fish songs. A few Tab tunes, some of the solo stuff. Interesting, James Casey was there but did not play. I don't know if that's related to his fight that he's been having with cancer. But he did come out for the encore, and they busted out Ooh Child with him singing, first time since 17, and it was a beautiful night on the water in Baltimore.
That's great. Yeah, I saw that he had come out for the encore. I mean, did it seem like he had that vocal strength? Because he is so great, you know.
Oh, yeah, he nailed it. He totally nailed the vocals. So, awesome. I mean, it was only a 3-minute song, so he mustered up everything he had to come out there, but you could just feel the love and how much everyone was like, all right, there you go.
Absolutely.
Also interesting to see Trey with only the two brass and not the reed instrument up there for the horns. A lot of, I felt like Natalie and Jen stood around a lot more than they normally would have. With the song choices, the Fish song choices, they didn't have the,
Right.
Yeah, if you go back and listen to Trey from like 2001, he'll do like a half-hour Mr. Completely that'll have a 10-minute horn improvisation kind of thing going on in it. I think we need to move back to that.
Well, yeah, because that's really, at least for me, one of the reasons why I love that setup, because you get that feel, that extra power. So maybe that is something to consider, actually.
It seems like since 4.0, since quarantine's been over, Trey has been using the Trey band as a warm-up for Fish. Mm-hmm. These two shows are right before the shows start on Tuesday. Speaking of, we over on What Plus, I do the after shows. This coming weekend for the Atlanta shows, you should get on there and check Amanda out, hanging out with Tim, because I'm going to be doing the Dead and Company show. So she will be there all weekend. It's 15 minutes after the encore over on What Plus's YouTube channel. And I'm excited for that. I think this is going to be great. You can keep Tim in line there.
Oh, I'll do it. Yeah, that's so much fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's going to be fantastic. So today on Twitter, there was a lot of talk about, as there always is, about talking. during concerts, and people, don't like talking and singing and all that. And not that I want to have somebody talking behind me, but I came to a kind of zen with it when I used to tape, because inevitably somebody walked up and talked under the microphones. I call this phenomena the toilet thing. You're attracting. Never mind now. But the reason was because it was a landmark in a crowd. You walk toward the landmark, you see the mic stand sticking up. Of course, people are going to walk to it. And then they come over and they're like, "Can I get a copy?" They're just being friendly, having fun. And I came to a zen with it that it was going to happen, and you did what you can to mitigate it. But you can't be angry, because if you're pissed off, then you've wasted 15 minutes of your own show over it.
It's a good point. And we're never going to be able to stop it. So I think it kind of is up to the concert goer to either leave the area, which of course you can't do or shouldn't do really if you're taping, or to your point, just say, you know what, I'm going to close my eyes. This is a part of the experience. And Kevin, if I can, just real quickly, the night before the Red Rocks show, I was up in Steamboat to see Railroad Earth at a very small venue that does not usually host jam bands. They actually mostly do classical music. So the venue was not set up for us. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of talking, and we were all in a different kind of configuration. It really was at some points kind of overwhelming. And I had to figure it out too. I was so angry at first. And then I just closed my eyes and I went with it. And you know what? Amazingly, it didn't bother me as much after that.
It's tough. It is. And this is a conversation that's going to continue on. So why don't we jump into the
top 3 stories of the week.
All right, Kevin got some stories for us, and I'm going to save the best and most confusing for last. So I'm sure I'm selling it that way. The first story this week is more of an industry type of situation here. Even if you've never heard the name Alan Roper, he's somebody that has been a booking agent for well over 10 years now. He's just launched a new agency. And I think this is news for a couple of reasons. Number one, they've got a pretty good stable of rising talent: Tanned, Funk You, The Kind Thieves, more. They're kind of stretching throughout various genres: reggae, EDM, some great Americana bands. But what I think is going to be interesting, and this is something to watch, is that Roper's journey began back with helping bands like Dopapod, Pigeons Playing Ping Pong, Spafford, Big Something. I mean, we've got connections to all these bands, right, Kevin, that we've mentioned. And he was an agent at Madison House, of course, the legendary agency based out here in Colorado, known for String Cheese and so many other artists. So I think it's something we can pay attention to. And I'm curious because they're actually kind of a hybrid in terms of what they're going to do. It's a booking agency and management firm. So they might be able to offer quite a bit to the acts that they represent.
one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. And, we do hear a lot from, different musicians and artists that we talk to when we kind of inquire about management. I think it's hard sometimes to find that kind of leadership style that maybe works for a band, of course, financially wise, or that's an important consideration. So this might be something that, is able to help some bands that might really need it.
I remember when we were talking to Tanned, it's 9 months ago now, they were saying that if they needed any help, it was with the booking part.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they, the biggest hurdle was for them, dealing with that, because that's labor intensive. It's the follow-ups, and it takes someone to be organized.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a couple other kind of veterans in this part of the industry that are joining that firm. Jason Miles, again, a name that maybe isn't recognizable, but this guy's got 3 decades of pretty diverse music background, experience in the industry, a couple others. So you never know. I will say I just saw Tanned is going to be in the Northeast in about a month. So, they are definitely making some moves, and I'm really excited about that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, super stoked. So that's our first story of the week. Next up, we are going to talk about real quickly. I find these stories really interesting. I know that Nelly is maybe not technically part of the jam band or jam band adjacent scene, but he has just partnered with an investment firm for the purchase of some selected recorded assets, and he has earned himself $50 million for that. So basically, he sold half of his song catalog. Tina Turner had done that right before she passed away, reported $50 million deal. You know, we hear of this occasionally.
Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Genesis did it, and Phil Collins. I think he only got
Absolutely.
30 million though.
Yeah, so I think, you know, these deals as they come up with these kind of, you know, mega stars, I guess, if you want to call it, I think it's interesting because it does pose some questions about ownership, of course, and who's really benefiting, you know? Like to me, I think that's pretty exciting. And hopefully it will also help ensure the discovery of his music for a long time. And maybe he'll have some control over that. I'm not really sure, but you know.
What about the fact that these faceless conglomerates are buying up all this art, and they are going to control the art eventually, large portions of the world's music catalog?
Yeah, they're going to have it, you know, and you just kind of hope that the people that are running that show don't end up putting hot in here and, you know, like a ad for, you know, menopause or something.
They are signing that contract right now. You know that. That's the thing.
I just thought of that right off the top of my head, Kevin. It has no idea what and it has nothing to do with the fact that I just turned 43 at all. But, you know, just one example. You know, we'll see. I don't know. The industry is so based on, you know, making sure that this music is available. I almost wonder if, you know, for that individual who's looking at that number, you know, maybe they feel like it's worth it. I'm not really sure. It's guaranteed income, you know, obviously.
It could become a thing like with, you know, just shows being dropped on streaming services because they can be written off on taxes.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, Nelly's half of his catalog disappears because the money isn't right for him or something, you know?
Yeah. So I think these are just fascinating stories because we do hear about it and it's these really large sums of money. And then, of course, well, he's young enough, but then you get the estate fighting over who's going to get it. So, you know, we'll watch out for that one too. All right. So that's our second story of the week. This third one, though, oh man, Kevin, when I saw this, my mind went to, should we really talk about this? Because I just find this topic to be fascinating but confusing. So we've mentioned the Grammys a couple times lately. Regardless of how relevant they are in, you know, our everyday world, they do still, I think, have the ability to set the tone and pace for, you know, certain aspects of the music industry. And they have just released some new AI guidelines. So music that contains AI created elements is eligible for Grammy nomination and also to win a Grammy. So that's the short version of it. And I would say that as I read through this more and more, it's obvious how difficult it is to get into the details of what exactly constitutes AI and how much of that would be, you know, in a song that's still considered for a nomination. So basically, I'll just try to break this down and then we can talk about it a little bit. As long as the human or humans are contributing in more than a minimal amount or a meaningful way, which is so subjective, then that piece of art can always be considered for a nomination or a win. So if an AI or voice modeling program performs the lead vocal on a song, the track could still possibly be eligible in a songwriting category, but not a performance category because what's performing is not human creation. So I'm just going to stop there. I mean, my head started turning around when I was trying to kind of figure this out. But Kevin, what do you think about all this?
They really, I don't know. I'm glad that they did that. That's good. But I think that it also goes to, there was a graphic novel I don't know the name off the top of my head, but all the images in it were AI generated. And what some court ruled was she could copyright the text, but she could not copyright the artwork because it was AI generated. So the performance rights for that, how do you pay an AI generated voice kind of thing? That's where my mind went with it. It scares me, but that's the future of music. Pretty soon there's going to be a song release that had no human interaction except some guy at a keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. And I know there are already some examples out there of new songs that have been created alongside this technology. Grimes did one of those, few others. And I know that the Grammy conglomerate held some tech summits to try to understand this. You know, they're making an attempt. I think that that's valid. And I think it's probably better than ignoring it. But at the same time, you know, I'm just thinking that we still have no idea what this is actually going to become.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we shall see. But yeah, it concerns me, you know. So with that, let's go to an interview with somebody who is not AI. Richie Furay. He was in Buffalo Springfield and then Poco. We're going to find out as we get into this interview that he became a pastor, a preacher of some kind. And very interesting. Didn't beat us over the head with it, but he expressed what he believed, and I felt like that was important to get out there. But this first clip we're going to talk about, there were two Buffalo Springfield. Well, there was a reunion. They played Bonnaroo one year, but also back in '86 they tried to get together, and we got into a little bit of that. So let's take a listen to that, and we'll see you on the other side. You said that you had sat down with Steven and Neil. I saw the video on YouTube the other day from the mid '80s of you guys together as Buffalo Springfield working on a new song. And I know at one point I guess some of you got the original members got back together and did a one-off maybe for Neil Young's Bridge. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, the one that you're talking about was a train wreck. That was back in the late 80s, I believe it was. Maybe early 90s. I can't remember when it was, Kevin.
I think it was like 86 is what the video was labeled as.
It was a train wreck. We tried 3 times to get together. And, you know, everybody was in the heat of their careers at that point in time. And to try to get something together, it was a little ambitious, to say the least. And so that didn't work. But when we did about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago now, I don't know, time flies when you're, you know, having so much fun. But we did do a reunion, and we did 2 shows at the Bridge School. And then we did 7 concerts. We did 2 up in San Francisco, 2 in Santa Barbara, and 2 in LA. And then we did Bonnaroo. And that couldn't have been any better. It was just so easy. We just got together, and it was like a hand in a glove. It was, we didn't have Bruce or Dewey with us, as both had passed away. But Joe Vitale, who's just a great friend and such a wonderful drummer, and Rick Rosas, who has also passed away now, but he was the bass player. And it was just a lot of fun. I'm really glad we got a chance to do it. We were going to do some other shows. We actually had bookends in Los Angeles, Denver, and New York. And after Bonnaroo, though, it just didn't happen.
Just didn't happen. I hear you. It's tough, I guess. It's like herding cats, I guess. At that point.
The one that you talked about earlier, that was crazy, because that was a train wreck. I mean, man, we couldn't get the first day was like, oh my gosh, man, and we sat and played and jammed and this and that and the other, and then the next 2 times that we tried to get together, well, it didn't happen.
Right. The video that I watched was of a Neil Young song, and I'm totally spacing. I didn't write down what it was. A new tune you were working on, and Steven had a weird little guitar with no head on it. It was just like the neck and basically the nut down at the bottom. But whatever he did, Neil was like, I love that. And just watching that one clip, it seemed like it could have been a very fruitful thing.
Well, it would have been. But you know what? Number 2 and number 3, as we tried, that's when it just all fell apart.
Right. So then what did you do? I know Neil, I guess, went on to maybe do another Crazy Horse, got back together. Or
Yeah.
Steven did CSA. I guess David Crosby got out of rehab. That's when Crosby was cleaning himself up.
Right. Yeah. So,
What were you doing at the time? What did you do?
At that time, I was actually pastoring a little church up in Boulder, and that's what I was doing. During the Souther Hillman Furay time, my wife and I, had some difficulties in our marriage, and I was introduced by the guitar player in the Souther Hillman Furay band, Al Perkins, who I didn't want in the band. I told Chris Hillman, who was the guy, that he wanted him in the band because he had played with him in Manassas, he'd played with him in the Burritos and all, and I told him, hey, I don't want this guy in the band. He's going to stop us from becoming rock and roll stars because he has a little fish sticker on his guitar that says Jesus is Lord. And well, as it turned out, Al got in the band and actually led me to saving faith. So, yeah, I was actually in the midst of a 35-year career pastoring a church when all this was going on. So I just went back to pastoring, back here in Boulder and in Broomfield. And, the rest of the guys, Stephen went off and was doing his thing. And then Neil, like you say, was playing with Crazy Horse. So we all had other things that we were doing.
I'd say you're still pastoring today?
Actually, I retired in 2017 from the pulpit ministry. You never, I still, talk to people, write to people, encourage people, challenge people, just in their walk and faith and all. And so, but I retired from the pulpit. I had Bell's palsy right before Christmas, and Nancy and I, we're just getting on. And I just said, you know what, everything that we've done has been for somebody else. I think it's time, because time's getting short. I was 75 at the time. She was 73, and it's like, time's getting short. We, maybe we should just spend a little more time focusing on ourselves. And so that's what we've tried to do. I'm still busier now than I think I've ever been.
Well, you're looking and sounding great there.
All right, Kevin. Yeah, just like you mentioned, it was really interesting to hear Richie talk about his life right now. I appreciated that. And seeing as he's very local to me, maybe I'll get a chance to see some of his work that he's currently doing. We do have a lot more. This was a really good interview. But before we get back into it, just wanted to remind everybody that we are on social media at All That Jam Pod. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, others TBD. There seems to be new options every week. Allthatjampod.com online. And then, of course, you can find us anywhere that podcasts are available. And we really would appreciate you liking, writing some reviews, leaving some comments for us. I know that we are putting out a lot of new material every week. Kevin's going to share a little bit more about that and resources too. So make sure to check that out. Let's get back into it with a topic that comes up pretty frequently, and I always find this fascinating. Richie's take on recording in the studio, that process versus playing live, and actually a whole bunch of other things.
Let's ask, Amanda and I always ask about the difference between playing live versus recording in the studio and what you see as the differences or challenges with each.
Well, they're both very different. And even recording is different. I have to admit, I've recorded with a good friend back here, John Macy, who now has moved to Texas. But John and I had done so many musical projects together. A very easy guy to work with. But I have to tell you that working with Val was just, I've only been able to do this with him, and that is to be able to sing live and get a vocal track when the band's playing live. Everything else is okay, put on the headphones, go in and overdub a lead. And I tell you what, it is so much fun to be able to have the confidence in the musicians that you can just go in and you can just sing and they can capture that. Now, listen, Is it tweaked? Obviously it's tweaked. I'm not gonna sing, perfectly, but you'll have to go and listen to In the Country and hear some of the songs. It's called In the Country. You can YouTube it and all, and go back and do it. So, that's fun. It was certainly, I'd never met some of the musicians, because the ones that I'd played with John, we played with probably 4 or 5 albums together. So that was easy. But you had to get past that one moment of, who are these guys? Because Val, as the producer, he said, I'm the producer, so let me pick the musicians. And I said, okay, but I need these guys with me here. And so I had 2 of my guys, Dan Dugmore and Chris Lusinger, on the project as well. But going out live, there's always that little heartbeat, man, that just kind of thumps in your heart when you go out. I don't play on a regular basis, so when I do go out, it's like that nervous tension maybe of stepping on the stage for the first time. And it's exciting, and the minute you start playing that first song and you see how the people are just reacting to it, it's like, there's nothing like it. It's a great experience. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Kevin, that reminds me of, I'd read an interview a couple of months ago, and I think it was Bob Weir who was really opening up about exactly what it feels like to him when he gets on stage right before the music starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very intense and visceral,
I would agree with that 100%. It's like I say, your heart's just really beating, and it's like, oh boy. But then when you step out there and you hit that first chord and everything starts to go. Even when, it doesn't matter if I'm doing it with just the little acoustic set that Jesse and Dan and I do, or you got that whole band with you. That's what's so neat. This is a great time for me to be just making music, that I can still get out there and do it.
Love it. So I got to say, and Kevin, I know this is a lot of times your question or thing that you want to talk about. So when I'm listening to you, I hear so much honesty, but what comes through so much more is even just gratefulness for everything that you've done and everything that you're doing right now. And I just think that's so amazing. But one of the things we love to ask people is about their, philosophy on living, on life, on just what it all means. Is that something that you could maybe speak to a little bit?
Well, you know what? In 1974, I put my life in the hands of Jesus Christ, and he became my Lord and Savior. And I'm just very thankful, for Al Perkins introducing me to him. And, so I just put my life there. I thank him for the gifts. When I go out and I play a show, I don't proselytize. I'm not there because people have come to hear, picking up the pieces, or good feeling to know, or kind woman, but I do let people know that the reason that we're there sharing this music with them is because of the gifts that my Lord has given me. And so, I'll just testify in that way. But at the same time, that's where my hope is. I'm a born again Christian, and I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I believe he's, coming back for me.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I just think you exude that joy, when you're talking about your work, and that translates to everything. So I appreciate that.
It's been pretty cool. It's been a journey. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just thankful for the gifts that he's given me, that I can share them and that I can still share them today. I'm very happy to be able to get out. I don't, with, like I say, traveling today, the economy, and just trying to get out, and I'd love to take the band with me everywhere I go. I can't afford to do that. So, I have some shows coming up where it's just going to be my acoustic set again. But I love doing that because it's intimate, and I can be intimate with an audience, because my audiences aren't stadiums. They're either small clubs. There's a little club here in Colorado, Nieces, that we just got through playing a little while back. And I've been, truthfully, I've just been blessed more than probably any one guy ought to be blessed. I did what I wanted to do. I was handing out tools in a tool crib, and I wanted to make music, and here I've been still making music today.
Are we ever going to get an album of new music? I know your last thing was an album of covers.
Uh-huh. Well, in when was it? 16, 17, I can't remember, but I've tried to write music along the way. I've got an album called Heartbeat of Love, which has I have Stephen and Neil and has Kenny Loggins, Timothy B, so many of my friends on it. It's called Heartbeat of Love. And then a few years later, I did an album, I think in 2016, 2017, I can't remember. I know that sounds like a long time ago now, but called Hand in Hand. And so those are all albums that I've written and new music. It's all new music. I haven't written a lot of new music recently, although I did write a song for a paraplegic little young lady that comes to our concerts. And there was another thing that my manager David said, well, Rich, you'll write a song for you if you donate thus and so. And it's like, oh my gosh, David, what are you doing, man? This isn't like turning on a light switch, man. And this good friend of mine said, I want you to write a song, but not for me. I want you to write a song for this young lady. And so I wrote that. It's called Lindsay's Lullaby. And then I just wrote a song that I debuted a couple of years ago. Actually, it was like a year and a half, 2 years ago on the Mike Huckabee show called America, America. You can also Google that and check that one out. So, I mean, I still write music and I still write songs. It's just I haven't compiled enough to put out, what I would think would be an album right now, yeah.
All right. So yes, his we got into a little bit of writing new music in there, and I think the next clip was going to piggyback off of where that ended there. This week. It's not next week, it's this week. We got Billy Ayuso on Tuesday about his Grateful Dead connections. He was in a band with a couple of guys from Little Feat and Kreutzmann from the Grateful Dead called Dead Feet, and he also has a all-star cover band called the Ico All-Stars down in New Orleans. Wednesday, we got John O'Manson on his studio, The Kitchen Sink, out there in Santa Fe. Thursday, we're going to be talking to Stuart Bogey on working with J-Rad and the Grateful Dead's catalog. He I found a video the other day I shared on Twitter of him doing Black Peter and its horns, and it sounds almost like a New Orleans dirge. They really lean into it. It's pretty cool. Friday we got okay, how about this? I'm going to say Friday we had a special edition, and then I'll let you say something about it. Friday we got a special edition, Amanda.
Oh, yep. So we were able to talk with Eric Halberg from hold on, let me start that over. We're able to talk with Eric Halberg of Dragon Deer. They are based here in Colorado, a Color Red artist, and they've got a new single dropping. So it was really great to talk with Eric about that. We're also going to play a little bit of that song for you, and really excited to do that.
Yep, so you can check it out before you head over to Bandcamp and buy it or wherever it is. We will have the links in the show description. Saturday, we got Brian Haas on Meeting Reed Mathis. Together, they basically were Jacob Fred Jazz Odyssey's heart and soul for many, many years. After it went from being a 6 or 8 piece, whatever it was down to a trio, and it was them and the drummer that they had. And then Sunday, we got Helen Gillet on a topic that I'm finding interesting, and I think we should dive into a little more: women in jam bands. We had Natalie Brooke talk about it. That was one of our most listened to episodes. And we also spoke with Brian Haas about it, which is going to come out in the future. I have a thing. I don't know. Where are you with this? Asking a man is that weird about women in jam bands? Or I think that they might have a good perspective.
Yeah, I don't think it's weird. I actually think it's just as important, if not maybe even more important, to have that conversation. So I'm glad that we did, and it was really great.
Yeah, and she's great. She talks a little bit about she being paid the same, like clubs trying to pay her less because she was a woman, and I wouldn't want to mess with her. Great interview there. So let's get back into this Richie Furay interview. This is about the state of the industry and the idea of having the big hit. And we'll see you on the other side. How do you view the industry now? I mean, you know, like you said that BMG released your album. A
Yeah.
lot of bands we talk to, younger bands, up and comers, say that it isn't even worth it to have a record deal anymore because the record company can't do what it used to.
I agree with that. And, you know, I mean, I released, like I say, Heartbeat of Love and Hand in Hand on my own, basically. Uh-oh. See if my wife, I don't know if that you can get that phone ringing
Oh,
there.
it's fine.
um, um, but when this project was being made, I think, you know, Val and some of the guys working with us had big ambitions for it and thought we needed, you know, to have a big record company behind it and this and that and the other. And, you know, as it turned out, things just, man, they are released and they are gone in no time flat, you know. And so if you're not a young I think band that this is what your life is all about, you know, and you have to get out and you have to promote it, because there's where I think a lot of the, you know, the economy of it is, economics of it is made, is when you have a following, you know, you have a following. And obviously today, you know, I'm not going to be doing that road trip, you know, because I mean, I'll do it certain places where I can, you know, feel comfortable, and I'll get there and I'll go home. But I'm not getting on a bus to go riding around and play the small clubs and this and that and the other. I'm past that at this day and age.
A lot of that's a lot of these bands that survive in quote unquote jam bands is the live thing. It's, you know,
Sure.
feast or famine with that. Now, with your past catalog,
Uh-huh.
how does that work with the fact of streaming now? Have you seen that affect your income stream?
A little
Streaming
bit, yeah,
is
sure, absolutely, a little bit. It's not. I never had the big hit. I kind of like remind myself that every one of the people I played with seemed to have had that one big hit. You know, I've never had that one big hit. Of all the groups I've been with, you know, I mean, I have songs that, well, man, that's a hit. Well, it's a hit, but it's not a hit. It's a hit to you because you're a fan. You know, basically, is what it boils down to.
right.
But there's the catalog still obviously generates it generates income, which is I'm real thankful for.
Right, I hear you with that. Yeah, I a lot of people are not happy with streaming, I guess, to say the least. What are you thinking, Amanda?
I think that when I look at the longevity of a career, and I know what I understand what you're saying about, you know, the big hit and everything, but I think, you know, for someone to be involved with so many incredible and just different groups of people who've gone on to do other things, I think it must be something to know that you have been there and just kind of seen and been a part of so many different things. And to me, that's, I don't know. I love the consistency, right? Of just kind of accepting what happened with any of those groups.
Mm-hmm.
Find something, like you said, things found you, people found you. And it just seems like that's something you've always kind of been receptive to in one way or another. That energy seems to be there.
You know, I have to settle down with that. I mean, I chose to step away from music for almost 10 years when I first became a pastor. And so to be able to get out and still make music and have people still come out to hear my music is, I mean, it's really very humbling if you want to know the truth about it. But I have kind of, you know, reconciled, you know, in my own heart and mind. There was a 10-year gap. People forget about you in a year. They doesn't take 10 years to forget about, you know, but then I was able to still come out and make music. And it's something that, yeah, I wouldn't trade my life today for what any of the other guys that I've made music with that have gone on to the great success that they've had. I am so thankful for them and that I've had an opportunity, you know, to play with them, but I wouldn't trade what they have for anything that I have. You know, I mean, it's like I've been married. Nancy and I'll be married for what, 55 years, Nancy? 56 years. And you know what? I mean, it's like there's just no way you can even put that on a scale of comparison. There's just no way.
Like they say,
13 grandkids. It's just an awesome blessing that I've had.
Like they say, mo money, mo problems, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So make sure that you're following the social medias, because we're going to be putting out something. Dead and Co's last 3 shows are this weekend, and we're going to put something out on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts, get some responses from you. You got anything else for us this week, Amanda?
I'm just really excited to start listening to some Fish. It's been a little while for me, and so it's always interesting to, get the spreadsheets out and start tracking.
Oh, yeah. So make sure this weekend, check Amanda out over on Walk Plus. And if you want to check me out, I'll be there most Fish shows. I'm going to Wilmington, the Man, and out the Dicks. And with that, let's hope all the Wooks on the lot stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll talk to you next week, Amanda.
All right, Kevin. Have a great week.